Live from a studio apartment. This is missed information. I had to switch my cameras earlier, so I wasn't sure if that was going to work. Right out the gate. I'm on the old iPhone camera. This is filmed on an iPhone, by the way. Not my newer one, either. My crappier one. So, hopefully that works well. Sorry for being a little bit late today. I went out to lunch. We had like a vendor meeting, like some company basically offered to buy our team lunch, so you could put whatever you wanted. You know, they have like a company card and stuff. So I suggested a barbecue place. So it's my lunch from earlier today. Everyone was getting sandwiches. I got the brisket and beef rib tips combo. And this was the plate 30 minutes later. I don't know why it flipped it. It rotated that's weird. I didn't rotate the plate. It's just, I finished everything basically. It's the gist of it. So I had the itis a little bit. Came back, took a nap, got up, and wrote some jokes. Speaking of which, we'll get into those in a sec. It's going to be a good show tonight. We're going to talk mostly about Trump switching planes. There's news that came out today. He switched planes in apparently a catering food truck, so we'll get into that stuff, when he was under threat of assassination in Turkey he was visiting. Candace Owens has got her debate coming up. That looks like it's actually happening this Friday, so there's some cool debate updates. And then AOC breaks up with her boyfriend. What? That just happened. So we'll get into all that stuff. Let's do these guys. Some jokes. Oh my god. Memento. Don't allow for that. Perfect. Jeez, freaking technology. Make things easier, just a pain in my ass every time I try to do anything. Alright. Well, during a recent trip to the Middle East, Trump was smuggled off of Air Force One and put on a different plane to avoid a missile attack, while reporters were left on the original plane. Yeah, apparently the reporters became suspicious when Rosie O'Donnell was unexpectedly added to the plane. And just at the last second, she was thrown on board. Well, Trump was reportedly smuggled off of the plane in a catering food truck. Yeah, to pull off the switcheroo, he relied on his prior work history in the food industry. He felt right at home. No one even noticed it was Trump in the catering food truck. Well, AOC is reportedly broken up with her long-term boyfriend, Riley Roberts. Yeah, and it's a bummer. Yeah, they'd been dating for 14 years and were engaged for 4. Yeah, the Democrats supported the move. Yeah, they're calling it the latest term abortion on record. They said it was brave, stunning and brave of her. Well, Missed Information has reached out to AOC for comment. It's a little... Hey. I think it's worse when I verbally slide into the DMs. Hey. I just sound drunk. Hey. Anyways. That's the jokes. We'll get into some news. So what should we start with? AOC. Let's pull up. Let me pull up TikTok and see what's going on over there first. All right. Let's see if anyone's here. What up? Yeah, hit a couple of people. What's up, everyone? How's it going? Where's studio? Okay. We'll talk about AOC. Let's do that. That's kind of the new news. Where is this stuff? Twitter. Can we just make it go? Oh no. Needs to be much smaller. That's what she said. I couldn't oblige. Hey. That hey was better. I don't know what the hell this... Why is this on here? This is on like a different window. It shouldn't just be windows of me doing other videos. Hold on. Window, we need... Sure, let's go to jokes. That's perfect. Okay, almost there. Alright, so this was the big news that broke like an hour before I took my nap. Apparently I traveled in time, but this was like from 4 p.m. or so today. So we had just yesterday, actually, there was news that AOC was freezing her eggs, right? Which was kind of funny. Everybody online was like, what? Why is she freezing her eggs? They were kind of punking on her. They're like, dude, she's been in a relationship with this guy, this same guy, for like 14 years now. They've been engaged since 2022. They've been dating since college. Like, why is she freezing? I mean, we get it, you're running for president, but dear God, why are you freezing your eggs, you know? And everyone was making fun of her. And then today we find out, well, actually, they're broken up. Which helps to explain why she's freezing her eggs a little bit. But it is kind of funny. I guess the story that I'm hearing is that they've been broken up now, supposedly for like 2 years. Everyone's saying like they haven't seen them together in forever. And this news is just sort of coming out, right? Which is kind of weird. It's a little strange, but I guess... isn't mentioning her fiance, freezing age. Here he goes. This is TMZ reporting. AOC and Riley actually split roughly 2 years ago and called off their engagement, according to somebody. About the couple's demise. Multiple sources on Capitol Hill tell TMZ it's felt like ages since the pair were seen together publicly. That's not hyperbole. They were last photographed at 2021's Met Gala. Yeah, it has been a while. So, I guess, you know, she didn't want anybody to know that she had broken up with the guy or wanted to keep it private. But it seems like now, as we're kind of approaching the midterms and almost 2 years out, really a year out from election season where she's going to start campaigning for president, seems like she's just kind of airing everything out. You know, all of a sudden you've seen this ramp up in her media presence. You've seen her suddenly disclose she's freezing her eggs one day. Now the dude's gone, broke up with him. Just get it all out there, get it out of the way before it turns into a big thing, you know, as you get closer to running and everything. So I guess that's what she's doing, is airing it out. I don't know. People are kind of making fun of the guy. He does seem like a liberal cuck boy, right? I mean, he does seem like... I always did wonder, like, why... I mean, he's like the total, like, you know, ginger kind of white... There's like a video of him acknowledging, like, white privilege or something like that, or people being racist with her. It just seems like... I don't know. I don't know that I ever believed that was necessarily going to work forever. He does seem somewhat effeminate. Not to rag on him too much, but... I don't know. People are saying, like, why did they split up? It was like they were together for a long time. You know, they were together since college, I think like 2011 or something like that. Then they're engaged since 2022, I think, so another couple of years. So why are you splitting up after like 10 years? You know, why didn't you have any kids after 10 years? I'll tell you why, I think. Because everybody breaks up after 10 years if you don't have kids. Like, everybody. Because people aren't meant to be together in long-term relationships with no kids just forever and ever. I don't believe that's how it works. You freaking get bored of the person. It's like, come on, after like 2 to 3 years, you're with the same person. You're just like, dude, what are we doing here? Let's freaking pop out a baby. Like, I'm getting bored of looking at you. We need to at least create one other person. one more person needs to show up here so I'm not bored anymore. But no, seriously, I think that is what keeps people together long term. At least like for, it seems like oftentimes even the parents who have kids, they eventually end up splitting up sometimes. Usually happens oddly enough right around that like 18 and 19 year mark, doesn't it? Almost like people are genetically designed to pair bond and to be together for about the time that it takes to raise a child to adulthood. And that's really the point of a relationship. So look at these long-term relationships. Tempted to turn on my AC right now. Tempted to turn on my AOC one day. But it's hot over here. I just can't turn on the AC because it's be super, super loud. Anyways, so distracted. But yeah, if you're together for like 10 years and you're not having kids, that's going to become a problem, I think, whether you think it is or not, because all of a sudden you're just, you're going to sort of get to that point where it's like, what's the next step? And there is none. So AOC does seem like she's definitely made the decision to go with being like a career woman, boss bitch, the ultimate boss bitch battle, really. If you're the first female president of the U.S., it's like the final boss bitch, right? So seems to be a choice that she's made, and she's rolling with that. So no kids, and it's kind of predictable that any long-term relationship just wouldn't last after a certain amount of time. The flame's gone. It's also funny, we've seen so she came out and there was a story that she was freezing her eggs, then this breakup story, but in the lead up to it, you were seeing all these all of a sudden she started posting about going to the gym, and she's doing all these squats, and then she's in her sports bra, and freezing her eggs. All that happened at once. It's like, if this pace keeps up, we could see a mirror selfie by tomorrow. The freshly minted Just Breathe ribcage tattoo. The caption, current mood. We're like a week out from a tattooed forearm appearing in an Instagram photo. Okay? She's a Latina. If she keeps this pace up, there's going to be a tatted forearm soft launch in like a week. I got to DM her again. Shit. So anyways, that's that story. Not super consequential. It's sort of a personal story, but in any case, let's get back to the twits. So this was tonight's top story, really. So we're learning with Trump, there was this story happened like a month ago. They were talking about it, where he was going on maybe this was like 2 weeks ago or something like that. He was going on a trip to the Middle East, to Turkey, for some type of a summit. And there were reports that Iran was trying to launch I think a shoulder-mounted missile, perhaps at Air Force One. So there was all this talk at the time about, Trump's switching planes. Like, there's one Air Force One, but the newer Air Force One's going to be over here. Maybe I forget what the exact story was, but it was like he was going to the UK to switch on to a different plane for various reasons. And people were saying it's sort of weird. The reporters who got on to the old Air Force One, I think it was the old Air Force One, which Trump was supposedly on, were saying that they were ordered to lower their blinds, which was odd. That's outside of procedure. And I thought at the time, I was like, I will bet you that Secret Service and them are doing something shady to kind of create a decoy and get him, try to smuggle him around in a way that Iran can't see, if this really is a credible threat that they're going to try to bring down Air Force One, or launch missiles at it, right? So turns out, I guess that's the case. So this is a news report. I guess what they did is, once they loaded him and the reporters up onto Air Force One, they brought in a catering food truck, which I guess normally loads the plane. And I guess they snuck Trump out on the catering food truck, which you can see right there in the video. I guess that's the food truck. And that food truck brought him onto a different plane, right? This is him supposedly being removed from the plane. Now, the remarkable part of the story, too, which people are now pointing out, is that he left the reporters on the original bomb threat plane. Which is it's just super funny. I mean, so apparently they moved Trump to a different plane, but then they let this plane keep flying as like a decoy almost, allowing Iran to believe that the president's on this plane, and all the reporters, unbeknownst to them, were just still on the plane, but without Trump. Somebody was saying online, I forget who it was, wouldn't it have been funny if Iran would have blown up the plane, and then leftists, U.S. leftists, would have spent like an hour just celebrating it, only to realize that Trump was never on the plane and it was a bunch of their reporters. This is the, there's another tweet about it here. I guess this is Caitlin Collins. She's been jumping on this. He did recently call her a tranny, so I'm sure she's still not happy about that. So she was jumping on this story. We'll listen to her real quick.
Given the pictures that you can see now, it makes what the president told reporters in that gaggle afterward all the more noteworthy.
You're saying there wasn't a security concern?
No. Why would they? Do you know why they had us close our window blinds? That was not usual. Well, yeah, because you're, probably on a dangerous flight because of the sleaze bags that we have to deal with.
So you think that Iran was possibly thinking, trying
Well, I mean, if they asked you to close your windows, probably they feel that way. They didn't ask me to close mine, but if they did, I would have done it.
Were you aware of any credible threat by Iran against Air
Well,
Force
I have
One?
a threat all the time. I'm number one on their list before you. But if I go, you go, right?
But was there a
So
specific threat today?
perhaps someday you want to change professions.
Pretty funny. Pretty funny. Actually being serious.
I go, you go.
Okay.
Though the president wasn't actually on the same plane as the reporters who were asking him that question. And when they asked him about why they had to lower their own shades, the president said, well, he wasn't told to lower his. Well, he was on a secret plane. He was not on the same plane that those reporters and some White House staffers were flying on.
Well, what do you expect he's going to do? I mean, obviously they're going to, if they got a threat against him, they're going to shift the president. They're not going to shift all the reporters. I don't know. I wouldn't be like, I might be more upset if, I know looking back on this event, I remember it was pretty widely circulated that there was some sort of a credible threat against Air Force One at the time. So these reporters, it's not like they didn't think that there was the possibility of a threat, on the plane. I mean, they were all flying with the knowledge that, yeah, they're with the most targeted man on the face of the earth through enemy territory in a country that he just attacked, basically, like right next door. Of course, they all realize that there's a chance that they get shot down. It still has its own missile defense systems. It still has the best security it possibly can. But, I mean, what else is Secret Service supposed to do? Just leave them on the plane? Or ground the Air Force One? And, I feel like that would cause an even greater security concern. What are you going to do? Just ground Air Force One there and leave it a sitting duck with all the reporters on it, and you're still saying Trump's on it? Sometimes they are going to have to move Trump around. They're not going to tell everybody where he is or what's going on. That should actually be the norm, is for him to it really should always be the norm for you to never know which of several various planes Trump is on at any given time. There really should always be at least like 2 or 3 planes flying, shouldn't there? It shouldn't really be like one plane that he's always on. That's stupid. So, I don't know. I get it. I wouldn't be happy if I were one of the reporters on the plane. I think they had some reporters talking about it, though, and they didn't seem too concerned about it. I think Caitlin had one of them on her show. Let's see if it'll pull it up. Yeah, here's somebody talking about it.
And Compton, how amazing what she is telling the world tonight with this very plain, simple language, which is truth is paramount. Don't lie about it. This is history. And I think this is where the administration has gone wrong. Yes, the president had to be protected at all costs in the face of the Iranian threat that we now know that they felt they had on hand. But look, they got him safely, thank goodness, on a third airplane, and they got him away. That's all good. There's a couple of things, though, that are highly problematic. I don't subscribe to the notion it was a decoy plane, because my question is this. If it was not safe for the president to be on that flight, how was it safe for the media to be on that flight? and to be lied to, not to be told the truth. Yeah, again, to be lied to. Because the thing is, it was the U.S. military flying the plane. The U.S. military does not put civilians unknowingly at risk. The president was gone. He wasn't being threatened anymore, presumably, but the civilians on board were still under threat.
Again, what are you going to do? You're going to leave the plane sitting there? Like, they had to get home somehow, didn't they? What better way is there? You're going to announce, oh, he's not on that plane? Bring more attention to the plane? Like, it seems like what they did is probably the most obvious thing and probably the safest thing for everyone involved to do. What else are you going to do? Plus, the reporters all knew that there was a credible threat against the plane. Nobody didn't think there was a chance they could get shot down. So, I don't know. I think they should do more of that, personally. I think it's smart. Okay, so we got that stuff. There's, this is the other news story. So, Candace Owens, debate is coming up this Friday. She has been talking about it. I guess they found a moderator, Patrick David Betts. Sorry, give this thing a second to load here. This is sort of a good example. So, my view of Candace Owens, I'm a fan and not a fan. I'm a fan of her personality and her talent. I think she's incredibly talented. She's incredibly talented at getting people's attention. She's incredibly entertaining, smart, fun to watch, right? I don't so much like what she's doing with the Charlie Kirk case because I think she's just making up a bunch of BS, honestly. Hard for me. I can't read her mind, so maybe she believes the things she says, but it seems to be a bunch of sort of clickbait garbage tactics that she's creating, really just designed around monetizing her own content. So here are a couple examples that I wanted to give you guys of what she's sort of doing. So this was the big thing, I think, today, is she has released, well, supposedly there was like some footage shown in court of Tyler Robinson walking through a parking garage, but it appears that the footage is somehow smushed in the court version that they're showing. Maybe it was through a different maybe it's through a fisheye lens, but it doesn't look like it's to perfect like regular scale, right? Like everything's a little squinched for what it's a security camera, right? You're not going to get like HD crystal clear video. So she has presented on her show a different version of the video that somehow uncompresses it, or they're saying is the original video. But then other people are coming in and looking at it and saying no, because what she's saying is basically when you look at the uncompressed version, which has been widened to regular scale, this guy here in the video does not look like Tyler Robinson. Which, when you look at this one singular still image of somehow a different video, we don't know exactly how, it's different from the original one. Yeah, that doesn't look like Tyler Robinson. Partially also doesn't look human, though. You can see his arm is doing a weird wavy thing. He appears to be wearing knee-high socks. I mean, not really, but, you know, it looks distorted somewhat, right? So it's sort of hard to tell what's going on with this video and how it's been altered or what's going on. Anyways, it's important to understand, like, this is how Candace Owens is able to successfully operate, right? It's not about whether you look at the video that she's showing you or the still image and you think, oh, she's right, that's not Tyler Robinson. Let me point out what's different about it, right? It doesn't matter if you think that or if you're like, oh, no, it's BS, like Viva Frey is pointing out here. I think his name's Viva Frey. You know, he's saying, like, oh, this is an altered image, right? This isn't correct. This is why it's wrong, blah, blah, blah. In both scenarios, people are scrutinizing the images that she's putting online, right? Which means they're giving sometimes clicks on Twitter, sometimes views on YouTube, sometimes discussion and engagement on her show. It's all being generated for these weird little pieces of evidence that she puts into the public discourse, right? Just last week, we had the military crawl, right? What was that? It was a very visual, easily rememberable piece, like absurd claim, right? Only somebody trained could do this military crawl across the roof, and here's a video to go along with it. And people spent days and better part of a week disseminating the military crawl, discussing it, whether you believed it was true or you believed that it was bullshit and no everybody could do a crawl like that across the roof. Everybody was talking about it, focusing on it, right? So that's what's happening here. It kind of reminds me of like the X accounts that will come on. They'll just post some like puzzle video and they're like, oh, see if you can find the difference in this puzzle, picture. And like you'll, even if you don't, you didn't come here to look at that, you just see it, it catches your attention, you stare at the photo a little bit, right? Because it's visual, it's a puzzle, it's interesting. That's sort of how she operates her content. It's just with these little hooks that kind of keep you interested. Even if you, like if you're like me, you immediately distrust, disagree with it. You're like, let me find what's wrong with it. But you're still spending time discussing it, which I am right now, right? So it's kind of brilliant. And then I've also noticed she does this other thing, which Viva Frey points out. They're going back and forth here on Twitter about whether the video was compressed or not compressed, this, that, or the other. He was calling on her. I guess she had another piece of evidence she released a long time ago, which was supposedly a receipt from a restaurant showing that Tyler Robinson had eaten there the night of the assassination. It was too far for him to get there while still killing Charlie Kirk. And then he claims that Candace Owens said she would produce a receipt and to stay tuned. And she says, I've never once made any promise to release the receipt. You are lying again. Rather, I told you there was a receipt and it would eventually be released. Lying appears to be a new habit for you. So he says, I must have misunderstood what you meant by stay tuned when I asked if you had a receipt. I didn't realize it meant stay tuned for nothing, right? So, and this is a tactic that she'll use often too. Watch this. In this little photo, you can see her Candace saying he paid his bill, $9.47 in Panguitch with a credit card. Viva responds, do you have a receipt? She says, stay tuned, 9:47 p.m. Feel free to save this tweet. It will age well. How often have you seen, how many times do you see Candace Owens inviting her audience to save or bookmark a tweet of hers, right? Because supposedly it will age well, right? Again, it's a social media engagement tactic. It's not about, oh, her predictions coming true. It's about you bookmarking her content. It's like so obvious and so simple. She just literally instructs her audience over and over again to bookmark her tweets and save them, which then generates more attention through the algorithm towards her posts, which then generates more views and more money and more everything, right? So a lot of the stuff that I see from her is kind of very smart, peppered in engagement tactics, which I just wanted to point out. Now, she's got the debate coming up with Andrew Wilson. I like Andrew Wilson. I think he's a smart guy. I do not feel super confident with him in this debate, though, I will tell you. Let me see if I can find him here. He does appear on the surface, you would think, hey, this is the debate guy, right? He's literally like, his whole thing is being like the best debater, the master debater in the country, right? That's his whole shtick. And he seems to be good at it. I've seen him debate a couple of people and he seems really good, right? The problem that he's going to run into with Candace, I think, is Candace is just, as we just discussed, she's an engagement monster. She's an energy monster, as the late Scott Adams would have said, right? She can come in and just, he's going to come in and try to argue with logic and points. She's going to come in and argue with passion and with charisma and with a lot of attitude and snap and pizzazz. And the thing is, to win a debate like that, you know, where you're essentially arguing over made-up stuff and made-up suggestions that could or could not be true, really all she has to do to win is to get him to admit that her claims are somehow viable and to get off a couple big, like, aha, gotcha, zinger moments against him. And her audience will walk away from that going like, yeah, she won. And actually, if she hits a big zinger on one of those wild claims that she has, and it throws them off a little bit, she could even convince some other people who would have otherwise sided with them that she might be right about some of this stuff. She's very good at what she does. So I don't know that he is particularly, it's going to be way different going up against, going up against OnlyFans hoes on the whatever podcast, even 9 of them versus you at once, is going to be a very different experience than going up against one Candace Owens, right? I mean, they supposedly they were trying to get Joe Rogan to moderate the debate. He offered to come in on his day off and moderate it, and she said no, she didn't want him there, right? And even that makes sense to me, right? Because if you think about it, she has her own podcast show. Joe Rogan's almost her biggest competition, right? Why would she take the biggest event she's possibly been a part of and make her own self the B-side in that by bringing in Joe Rogan, a bigger podcaster, to host it? That almost makes it about him, And then Joe Rogan's going to come in with his whole shtick and try to be this and that way with people and try to provoke certain questions out of people. And, well, don't you think, Candace, if you think about it, isn't that a weird claim, though? Isn't that kind of a crazy claim to make? Like, she don't want that happening in there, right? She wants to be the A-side at her studio with the ability to rip off some zingers and to come over the top and basically out-argue this guy, right? Out-zing him. So we'll see how it goes. He's also, this guy Andrew Wilson, he's released, apparently this is like a fundraising video for the debate. So the whole story is that he pledged $300,000 for Candace to do the debate, right? I guess somebody had put up the first half of that, maybe 150 grand for him to do it. But I think he might be somehow fronting the other amount of money on his own. His problem, and this also undermines my faith in him a little bit, is he has apparently already paid Candace Owens, set up the debate, and is now coming to his audience to ask for money through like a give, send, go thing. So he has a crowdfunding video that he's released.
Let me give everyone an update of exactly where we are.
Which is right out of the gate very odd. Candace made fun of him. She said it looks like a hostage video, which it kind of does. I don't know why he's filming himself in the dark, with this like sort of like very serious vibe. It's like, dude is taking this like it's the most serious moment of his entire life. And I don't know if that's the right attitude to go into with this debate, right?
A few weeks ago, Brian Atlas, a friend of mine who runs the Whatever podcast, offered up $100,000, and they will stop at nothing to protect their interests, regardless of the lives they destroy along the way. Many creators and private individuals have reached out to help me with this financial burden, and they understand the fallout which is likely to come for me and my family for doing the right thing when it mattered the most.
A financial burden? Like, you asked for the debate. You challenged her to a debate. All right, I get it. Yeah, it sounds like to me like he put himself in a bad situation where all of a sudden she accepted. And it sounds like he didn't have a plan in place for raising the money other than paying it out of his own pocket, at least a portion of it, and then creating the event, and then somehow going back and asking the audience for money, which is terrible negotiation. You can't tell the buyer that you're already going to give them the product, it's all set up and you paid for it, and then ask for the sale. No, he should have, in my opinion, what he should have done is got Candace to pledge she's going to agree to it and just told her, hey, we're going to schedule it for when I hit $300,000, right? I've got a crowdfund part of this, but I will get it together. Deadline for me to get the money will be he could even said deadline is next Friday, right? I'll crowdfund it. If I have it then, we'll finalize it, right? Good. Get the money first. Why are you setting it up, paying her, and then coming to people being like, okay, if you like this Sarah McLachlan like feed the children video, I'm in a really bad spot. I've had to rise to the occasion at great personal and financial ruin to myself to host this debate. Why did you do that then? So I don't know what the give, send, go is at. We'll see if we can check it, but does he have it? Give, send, go link. He's got 40 grand so far, so that's pretty good. But I mean, dang, he's trying to hit 300,000 by Friday. What's he got? That's almost a sixth of it. Gonna be tough, my bro. It's gonna be tough. Yeah, if he had announced this as we can host this debate if we hit 300,000, he'd have hit that in like 48 hours, dude. People would have paid for it 100%. Terrible marketing, which is why I'm like, dude, I don't have any faith in him anymore. What the hell is this? All right, so anyways, long story short, yeah, we got that. Here's a video from today. People are pointing this out. AI is getting better and better. And they have influencers now that are totally AI, right? So this is a video of like, I guess it's a fitness. I hate when I'm stalling and then it just still doesn't come up. It's a fitness influencer who's like 100% AI. And people are saying this is like the most realistic video of a AI influencer yet.
Okay, late night gym vlog. It's basically empty in here. I look tired, but we're still doing this. That woke me up fast. Upper body done, and I'm already dying. Best part of the workout. A little stretch so I can pretend I'm disciplined. I always say quick workout and then stay forever.
Now, this is still
a little stretch so I can pretend I'm disciplined. I always say quick workout and then stay for.
This is still a little uncanny valley to me. So it's not perfect exactly when I watch this. The uncanny valley, that's the concept, if you're unaware, that like people are really good at recognizing real like alive people versus dead people. So it's like if you see like what's a good example? Like basically if you see like something that looks human, it's like a puppet or something that looks almost realistically human, you still get this like kind of sickening off feeling when you see it because you know it's not real. It's supposed to be like, you know, we're biologically designed to recognize dead people versus alive people and to stay away from the dead. So it just makes you uncomfortable when you see something that appears to be alive but isn't exactly. So when you look at this model, to me there's like a sheen of sweat that doesn't exactly move on the face. Somebody was pointing out like the pupils don't dilate, stuff like that. So it is a little off-putting to me still. But it's basically good enough to where it's going to essentially be able to capture the attention of 99.9% of incels forever. Right? It's just such a depressing idea. I hate the idea that I guess I do it kind of, you know, I'm online, like trying to have my own show and stuff. And it's just depressing to me to see these like AI influencers and AI artists, AI musicians. It's kind of depressing because isn't the point of watching people to like know that it's a real person and like you're impressed that a person is doing that? Isn't the point, this is kind of a meta topic, but isn't the point of watching like a hot chick be a fitness influencer to like know that it's a real hot chick and to believe, even though it's a like 99.9% fantasy, that you might one day get that hot chick? Isn't that the whole deal? Now these are taking away the like 0.1% chance. They're like, oh no, absolutely no chance. She's not even real. This one's totally fantasy. But that like 0.1% difference is like the biggest difference in the world, right? It just seems empty and depressing to me. So I don't know. It's hard not to feel a sense of existential dread when you see how far along AI is coming, because it just seems like everything's fake and nothing's real anymore and everything sucks. But hopefully that won't be the case. We'll see. I do think that, you know, there are a lot of lonely guys out there who don't have like any chance of dating. And for them, I don't know what you do other than give them a matrix of these fake hot AI chicks and just hope that they don't shoot anyone. Maybe a net positive for them. So might be a market for it. All right, we got that. This was should probably do a little bit more. I was trying to do some digging on this and figure out what exactly this bill entailed. So this is Massachusetts. I guess the Democrats signed a bill that allows abortions up until birth. And people are pointing out that there's a lot of Democrats in this video celebrating the signing of that bill. Now, the community note underneath does go over that this is essentially for, theoretically, like worst case scenarios when a woman's health is on the line at the end stage of pregnancy. It would theoretically allow abortions up until birth based on professional medical judgment. So my question to Grok was like, what, let me see if I could find it here through Grok. My question was essentially, okay, what does that mean? Like medical judgment? Like, are you talking it has to be a physician who's like, yeah, this has to be done? Or if a woman comes in and let's say she's like, almost to term and they find out that the baby's going to be autistic or something, right? Could you terminate it then and be like, well, it's a medical judgment, necessity. She decided she didn't want to have the kid and there's a certain risk. Like, that doesn't seem right, to kill like a fully grown baby. So I would want to know a little bit more details. Let me see if I can find it here, in fact. Grok. What did I have here? In Blazer. I look up so much stuff. Okay. Based upon the professional judgment of the physician, a new thing was added stating that no medical review process shall override the professional judgment of a treating physician and a patient or the patient's healthcare proxy. So that sounds dicey to me right out of the gate. All right. The decision rests with the treating physician's professional medical judgment in consultation with the patient. There is no longer a requirement to fit the case into one of the 4 specific statutory exceptions. External medical review processes cannot override the treating physician and patient decision. Receive care. Okay, let me ask Grok if I'm asking her about my autistic baby question. Did I say her? I meant Grok, the thing. I'm asking the AI influencer. Other than that, an abortion after 24 weeks is permitted if performed by a physician based on professional judgment. The prior 4 exemptions were deleted. So I think this is not treatable. They're not in the old statutory. So I think what it's saying, and this is why this community note on it may be a little bit funky, I think. Because I think what, let me pull this thing up here. What the community note is saying is basically, oh, this is just extending the abortion term limits to allow for, like if there's terminal conditions to the woman or serious health complications, they can extend it up to the end of the term, right? That's what the community note seems to say, but that's not true. What the bill does is it deletes, there were a previous 4 very specific medical exceptions that would fit within a late-term abortion. And it basically deleted those 4 specific medical exceptions. So if a woman did say, oh, we just found out I'm 8 months pregnant and there's a good chance that the child could be autistic. Now, that wouldn't have been in one of those 4 older exceptions, but now you don't have to have one of those specific 4 exceptions. All you need is the treating physician and the woman's consent. So if she discusses it with her doctor or a healthcare proxy and he says, yeah, I'd agree, it's a diagnosis, I would consent to you aborting it if you, decide it was in your judgment. And if she consented to it, she could get an abortion. So I am going to say the community note on this is bad. I don't think it's even rated fully. But yeah, this does seem like a bad bill to me. So, all right. I think that's it for tonight's show. I don't know if we have, let's see, if anyone's still hanging out. Maybe I'll do the jokes again. Where'd Google go? Oh, TikTok's a little dying down. Okay. We'll swing on out of here, and I will be back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. So Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's when we air live.